just a short time ago, you may not believe this, by the way, but I actually am old enough that I remember the I Have a Dream speech. I heard it as it was being given. Now, I was not there in Washington, D.C. I was in Fairfield, Connecticut, but I was listening to that speech of Martin Luther King Jr., and he was very eloquent, powerful, and one reason was because he was so heavily influenced by the Bible. His I Have a Dream speech there's a pervasive influence of the Hebrew prophets on his remarks. And one of the techniques in the Bible that you find is the concept of paronomasia. Paronomasia, where certain words that sound similar but have different meanings are used to be very dramatic. Let me give you an example of that in English. And you'll find that African American speakers, because many of them are actually seminary trained, they tend to use this kind of a technique. But let's go back to the time of the Civil War and the time of Abraham Lincoln. You could say at that time, Americans went from ballots to bullets. You get the point? They went from ballots to bullets. Let's see how the Bible uses paronomasia. Now, in recent weeks, I've been talking about wordplay numerical value in the New Testament, and eventually I do want to talk about paronomasia in the New Testament. But today I want to go to a couple of verses several verses actually two in the book of Isaiah. I want to first go to Isaiah 5 and verse 7. Or Isaiah 5 and verse 7. Here is a very powerful prophecy, and I want to go to the 7th verse of Isaiah 5, and he says, for the vineyard of the eternal is the house of Israel. He pictured Israel as a vineyard in a parable that he spoke. And the men of Judah are his pleasant plant. Then he goes on to say, he looked for justice, mishpat, but behold, oppression, mispach. He looked for mishpat, and he found mispach. Sounds very powerful in the Hebrew, paronomasia. For righteousness, litztaka, and behold, tza'aka. He looked for righteousness, and instead he found a cry. He wanted righteousness, tzedakah, and instead he found tza'aka, a cry. So you see the paronomasia and this, of course, to understand this, you need to go beneath the surface to the original language of the Scripture. I want to go now to Isaiah 7 and verse 9, another use of this paronomasia. Isaiah 7 and verse 9. This is a prophecy regarding the time of when Syria and the northern kingdom were trying to conquer the southern kingdom. In verse 9 of Isaiah 7, the head of Ephraim is Samaria, and the head of Samaria is Ramaliah's son, the ruler of Samaria at that time. If you will not believe, surely you shall not be established. If you will not believe, surely you shall not be established. Let me read that in the Hebrew. Imlo ta'aminu kilo te'amenu. Imlo ta'aminu kilo te'amenu. Imlo ta'aminu kilo te'amenu. So it's based upon the fact that the root for these two words is similar. If you will not believe, surely you shall not be established. So it's very powerful and eloquent in the original because of the wordplay, the paronomasia. And so that's understanding that technique is a way of going beneath the surface of the Scriptures.